There is at the moment a fear of what we know. Children don't just fall from the sky. It's a preparation that happens for a long time. They're observing very closely at the moment. So the more safety you create in your life and in your relationships.
You could be unalived for knowing too much and remembering. That's the psychic feminine brain that right now is really coming back online for so many masses of people.
But with these shifts, people are clearing things out to hold that capacity to understand what unconditional love is.
These new souls are coming in exactly at this juncture of time.
If you do that, she will awaken, and you, the feminine in you, will awaken, because the men that I was seeing in this week of the Goddess Week were all very deeply connected to their divine feminine, but there was a block with the women in their lives.
Gaia Chinniah, welcome back on Just Tap In. You know, I have to ask you this. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
I am most excited that people are revealing themselves for who they are. Their true identities are being revealed. People are looking for what is real. And they're looking for what is real in the world, and they're looking for what is real in their lives. And so how that applies to me is that, I always change. We all change and evolve as we should, and grow and allow ourselves to be seen in a different way. And I think for me, at this point, as we're talking several months from the last time we spoke, I feel like I'm the most real me that I've been for a long time. And I've been noticing that a lot with everybody. So globally, I'm excited because I'm actually, we were talking about this before we came online to record this, that people's connections are either breaking away or deepening. And it's because people are exposing their true identities. And so that's what I am actually really excited about. We're seeing what is real.
Wow. I've also heard you speak about this spiritual acceleration that's going on right now. Even in your own client work, you are seeing, for example, Atlantis coming up in several sessions, and how it's tied to this, you call it a massive seismic shift, which is tied to remembrance in many different ways. So I just wanted to explore that real quick about this acceleration that we're seeing, especially this new year.
Yeah, it's interesting, Emilio, because you know me, I've not learned anything formally. So when things come to me, it's like an investigation for me to go, okay, why are the guides bringing this up? What is it that we need to tune into? So in the weeks prior to us recording this, I was getting massive downloads and activations from Atlantis. And when we were doing our little meditation before coming on here to get us prepared for this transmission, the Ankh came in, and the Ankh is like the key to life, the key that opens up that spiritual acceleration as well. And so these seismic shifts are this point in time at the moment for all of us where we're emptying things out so that we can hold the capacity of that remembering. Because, our capacities to be able to hold what's coming needs to be of that unconditional love frequency. And I have to be honest, Emilio, I don't feel like I have experienced unconditional love. The closest I get to it is when I'm in that space of channeling for another, because your vibration has to come up to a certain level to be able to meet the divine, to be able to pass on messages and be the conduit or the medium for the other. But with these shifts, people are clearing things out to hold that capacity to understand what unconditional love is. And they've been telling me, my guides have been telling me during my own meditations, that you will experience unconditional love. Now, when they're saying that to me, they're saying that to everybody that I'm going to be saying it to. And the thing is that we haven't been. And you can see that in the dynamics of the world with everything going on. So with the spiritual acceleration, When I'm seeing clients in this last coming week, Emilio, in the last few weeks, Emilio, the things that are coming up are so confronting because we've got to shift that out now. The seismic shift out for the capacity to be there, to be filled with that remembering again, because our frequency is moving up to that place of, I'm actually ready to experience unconditional love. Because it's a scary place when we don't know what that is. Because we think, even I do, we think love is, we're in a relationship, but really there's conditions with love. And I know certain parents and mothers, they know how to give unconditional love. And some people have received it and can feel that. But for most of us, we are preparing for that shift to receive unconditional love, which is then what accelerates the spiritual activity. Like right now, when we're recording this, it's the new moon for you. I've just been through it. And it's also a very important festival in my culture called Navaratri, which is the goddess of the nine, it's the festival of the nine goddesses, sorry. And every night, for 9 nights, a different goddess is prayed to, revered, evoked. And the goddess goes on a journey from coming down to from the mountains, and she's embarking her journey of nurturing herself. And then she moves through all the different levels of who she is, through her fierce stage, through her wisdom, through her experiencing pain and having to cut through the illusions to the truth. But at the end, when she's got to the cosmic egg, at the end, she's open to her supernatural powers. And so when Spirit's been communicating with me, they've been talking to me about how the goddess is awakening. And, you know, I have to say to you, I had an aversion to that word goddess for a long time. I think maybe it was just a block for me when people would call me that. I'd be like, no, I'm just a person, because that's, you know, I just see myself as a person. But when Spirit started talking to me about the goddess awakening in all of us, you know, that week that they were really hammering this message home, I looked at my schedule, and I have nothing to do with my schedule. My assistant does that for me. I'd never seen so many men scheduled on my schedule than during the week that I started talking about goddesses and that the goddess energy was awakening. And I was thinking, this is really fascinating. Why is Spirit bringing me all of these men during the week when I'm talking about the goddess awakening? And so as I went through gentleman by gentleman, day by day, each client, there was a common theme, Emilio. There was a common theme, and I want to share that with you because I learned from this too, because I'm just as much the student as I am the teacher. And a gentleman came along, and the first thing I saw was a fox. Now, Spirit said to me, this is not a normal fox, this is a vixen. And I was thinking, okay, well, there's 2 meanings for vixen. Vixen is a female fox, and vixen is also what we know to vixen to be, in the feminine sensuality, the trickster, that kind of energy. So I said this to this gentleman, and he didn't really know yet what this gift was of this message. I traveled to a different realm, and he's not speaking to me. As you know, I don't allow my clients to speak, so I can just bring through what I need to bring through initially. And I see that he has a daughter in this timeline. And the daughter turns to me and said to tell my dad, which I didn't know whether he had a daughter yet. She said, please tell my dad in your 2026 life, I don't believe that you think I'm yours. I don't believe that you think I'm yours. What have I done wrong? And so I questioned, I said this to this gentleman, and this man said to me, oh my goodness, he said, I do have a daughter, and she's got a fox tattoo on her leg. And he said, I've got a secret to tell you. And I said, okay. I said, have you got children with 2 different mothers? And he said, I do. And I said, okay. I said, but is this daughter not with the current partner? And he said, that's right. And he said, but I've always wondered for the last 30 years, is she really biologically my child? She looks nothing like me. I've always wondered this, and I've never ever said it out loud to anybody. And I said, well, she knows. Her higher self is telling me that she knows that you are looking for what is real, what is the truth. And this is in the form of biology and the goddess, because this girl the daughter couldn't awaken her goddess because on some level the father was questioning whether the fidelity, like whether this child is biologically his. And do you know what Spirit said to say to him? Now, this is not my opinion. I'm just sharing with you what I've been learning. Spirit said to me, tell him it does not matter. It does not matter whether this child is biologically your child. You love her unconditionally, just as you have from the day that she was born. If you do that, she will awaken. And you, the feminine in you will awaken, because the men that I was seeing in this week of the Goddess Week were all very deeply connected to their divine feminine, but there was a block with the women in their lives. There was a block with the women in their lives. And so he was sitting there going, because he said to me, you know, the mother has always said to me, we don't need a genetic test. We don't need to check. And so he said, I always just questioned it. But it's in that questioning where the higher self of the daughter was like, doesn't believe doubt, that doubt. But that doubt needed to be appeased by unconditional love from parent to a child, regardless of the DNA. And that was the feedback, because I was thinking, what's Spirit going to say here? Are they going to say, no, go get the truth, go get the evidence in black and white? No, they said, just love her unconditionally, because for the last 30 years, you have been the father. Biology doesn't matter. And then the theme went on, Emilio, during the week with the other gentlemen that were coming. I had another one come, and this man was deeply depressed, and I could feel it as soon as he walked like into my screen, and I could see the depression and the heaviness was so heavy that the body was just stiff and unable to move. You know, it's been interesting. I've been seeing a lot of people that have been having their body compromised through not being connected to that goddess energy or that unconditional love energy. And so with this example, and I know a lot of people are struggling with body issues, meaning pain in the body, dis-ease, the manifestation of the emotional and spiritual blockages that we all have and we're all working on as we go through life. And so this deep depression didn't mean that this man wasn't spiritually gifted. He was. He had deep knowing. Now, Emilio, this is something that when I was tuning in last night of like, Spirit, what do you want me to talk to everybody about with Emilio? There is at the moment a fear of what we know. So what I mean by that is that, you know, often when I speak to my other friends who are in this work, it's a blessing and a curse, because there's a blessing in your knowing, and then in the curse element or the shadow element, it's like, do I really want to know that? Because it's going to cause a big disruption in my life. It's not what I thought I wanted. It's that kind of thing. So going back to this man, he was meeting women. Oh, my heart's doing some opening thing for everybody right now, which is interesting. He was meeting women that were cheating on him all the time, that were holding him ransom and making him feel like without them, he wasn't able to be the man who he was. I saw this by going into a timeline where I believe I was in Spain, and I can see that he'd remarried and he'd had a wife and a daughter that came into the relationship, because this was all about the masculine feminine thing going on during the Goddess Week, really obviously. So he said to me, one of my biggest loves of my life was a Spanish lady. He was not Spanish, he was somewhere from Europe. And he said, I always wondered I had such a close bond with her daughter, my stepdaughter. But I said, the curious thing is that they're telling me that you've got your own daughter. And he said, I do, but we're not very close. And I was like, it's interesting, because he had formed a bond with the stepdaughter and the new wife in this Spanish timeline. But here on Earth, he didn't have a connection with his actual daughter. And the new wife that he was with, he had this deep fear that he couldn't go. I can't leave and go anywhere, not even for 10 minutes, because what if she cheats on me? What if the goddess is going to take away my ability to provide and make her feel protected and secure as a man because my feminine has been so wounded? So this is what I found fascinating, and what I find fascinating at the moment is that the goddess is waking up in all of us, regardless of our gender, where we are being asked to address the parts of us that have been wounded by either the masculine or the feminine, so that we can move to that state of unconditional love and really bringing that in, which then accelerates our spiritual progress in every way to get to the goddess that brings in the supernatural abilities for all of us to be able to know without fear. It was so interesting. I was in working with this lady who was a psychic medium recently, and we were reading each other. And I left there with a bit of fear because I was thinking, gosh, I knew things about her that, which I shared with her, that I'm going, have I got fear of the fear of knowing? Have I got fear of the fear of knowing? And this is the truth that we are all facing at the moment. And we touched on this briefly before, earlier on, is that people are realizing that the connections they have are based on a version of them that has the wounded goddess and not the version of the goddess that is fully empowered, regardless of gender. So as the week continued, the men that were coming had either been wounded by a woman in some way, or many women, or disconnected from their daughters, or questioning what is real, and they were single, or they were in these relationships that they know that is not the right relationship for them because that woman is not fully in her goddess and is just mirroring back to him that you're not worthy of unconditional love because I'm not worthy of unconditional love. So it's just been this really fascinating journey of the types of clients that Spirit is bringing and wanting to share these messages of what does it mean when the goddess is awakening? Because the first, when they told me, I was like rolling my eyes going, oh, what is this? Some woo-woo strange, thing. Because I like to practicalize my work and just be like, well, what does this mean? Like, what is the ground level meaning of this, rather than using all the fancy big words? What are we being shown? And we're being shown that the feminine is awakening and we need the capacity to hold her, because her, as in, I saw this, I created a meditation on my app about it, because the way Spirit showed me the goddess was awakening is they took me symbolically into the forest. And in the forest, there was this beautiful stone goddess. And the stone goddess gave me there was some incense there. And she said, just wake me up, because when you wake me up, I wake you up. And so I was giving her my prayers and saying, if you're ready to wake up for me, wake up. And then her eyes opened, and then she had messages for me. And then other people were saying to me, oh, other people are talking about the goddess awakening. I'm like, great. So it's something collective that's going on that other messengers are getting. But in terms of the practical examples that Spirit's been giving me, it is men that are realizing that perhaps the women that they have been around, they're either disconnected from their daughters in some way, because daughters are born for the father and sons are born for the mother, or they've had women that have been so in their wounded masculine, and I've been there myself, so I know what that means, that they are not able to hold the capacity of the feminine in the man. Because I was having a laugh with my assistant about this. We were, sometimes I get clients who they want really masculine men that can protect, but then they also want that soft feminine side, and no one can decide, well, which one do I want? But
you can have both. You can have both.
That is right. You can have both. And that is the beauty of what is being revealed at the moment, is that if we look at all the big global issues that we see in the media, wars and people being killed, and it stems from the wounded masculine. And now to overcome that the goddess is waking up, because it's the divine feminine that regenerates. It's the divine feminine that creates. And when we look at Mother Earth, the world, how she's gone from Pangea to the Triassic to the Jurassic to the Cretaceous to the Holocene, it's like, she knows what to do to break things apart when it's the end of an era, the end of an epoch, and move to another one. That is what's happening for us at the moment. Gaia, you're done being there. This is what they told me. They're like, no, you can't. I had this meltdown. I have meltdowns often, but they're always for a reason. They're a bigger reason. And so the types of meltdowns are different. The recent one was I was literally grieving for 3 days for all the women, which I thought was so, I was like, I couldn't stop crying about all the wrongdoings that have been done to women. And now when I'm saying women, I'm also meaning the divine feminine in men. And as I cried and shifted, Spirit was saying, well, it's because the women are now done. They need to rise. The feminine needs to rise, because that is how the world is going to regenerate and repair itself for this new wave that's coming in. New wave of children coming in too. And this is an interesting story. I had this beautiful woman that came recently, and I went into a timeline. And in the scene that she was showing me, her husband was ripping from her arms a small baby boy, ripping from her arms. I'm taking this child and I'm going to unalive it. And I was thinking, oh my God, because I was feeling overcome with emotion, and she's crying when I'm saying this. I said, this man, this husband that finds you every timeline wants to take your son away from you. Now, it was interesting, Emilio, because before I'd come online with her, I started getting song lyrics to the song Zion by Lauryn Hill. And I loved that song. And it's a song that I have listened to a lot. And that song is about Lauren's unconditional love for her son, Zion. What a great gift it was to have Zion in her life. And I can't remember exactly the lyrics that I wrote down, but I remember thinking, why the heck am I writing this down? And it was because I could see in a timeline the son was being ripped away from the mother. So I said this to the lady. I said, you've lost a child. She said, I have. She said, I come from a culture where the in-laws and the husband can dictate based on the gender whether I have a baby or not. And they took me to a underground witch doctor or whatever, and forced me to unalive my child. And this little boy was standing there saying to me, I just want to be reunited with her. I want to be reunited with her, but I need to feel safe in doing that. And so this led me to go to other timelines to see, does she end up meeting somebody that can create the safety in that familial environment, whatever that looks like to people, for these new souls to come in that have experienced trauma with you in timelines before, because they want to feel safe coming to you. Because her time to have children wasn't up. It was because of this trauma of, if I have one, is it going to be taken away from me? And she's moved on from that husband now, and she's with someone else. And this child was like, she's like, I really do want to bring in this child. So there's these beautiful reunions happening up in other realms, and these reunions happening here on earth where we're summoning souls that we may not even have met yet, in the form of children or in the form of partners or connections or friends. And we are now holding the capacity in that space of the frequency of unconditional love that we are allowing, so that we can receive people with their new identity, which is their true self. We're just becoming more truer and truer and truer. And I'm sure next time I talk to you, it'll be a new, different version of Gaia. But this is part of that big reset and our identities changing. And it can be very scary for some people, because long-term relationships are breaking down. And it's because they're like, well, I'm not being seen the way that I am, which is, I was with you for this reason, and now I can see that I'm summoning something more within me. The goddess is waking up. So that fear, like if you've got this knowing, I have to remind myself, Gaia, don't have fear of the knowing, because the knowing is your clear cognizance going, you know the difference between where you are lying to yourself in denial and what is the truth for you. And the truth may be scary, like you know that a relationship's going to break down or that job's not meant to be for you, or you're finding out information. Because a lot of my work, it's like a detective. It's like, what's this information that spirit is showing us that you've neglected to see or you're not paying attention to? And but now there's clear cognizance. It's coming in so strongly with people, this knowing, but it's Spirit's been saying, don't have fear of that knowing, because we're going to guide you anyway on how it's going to navigate you on this next part of your journey. So I just find it really fascinating, Emilio, that so many men are coming at this time where the goddess is awakening, because it's awakening within them, but it's awakening for the women around them too.
Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode. Wow. There's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for bringing up such an important topic, right out the gate, right? This masculine wound that we've seen, and how that relates to their own internal goddess and feminine within them. And when I think of the feminine, I think of water. And when I think of water, I think of memory. And you've been speaking throughout this conversation around the different timelines that you're able to tap into in a soul's journey. And right now, even people in their own personal life are starting to tune into those different timelines and remember even faster. And it goes tied down with the feminine wound as well, which is, I believe, what you were getting at around the fear of remembering, the fear of knowing. Because in past times, the witch trials, and you could be killed, you could be unalived for knowing too much and remembering. That's the psychic feminine brain that right now is really coming back online for so many masses of people. So I wanted to understand for you what it means on a global collective scale when people are beginning to remember in masses, in waves, and also what to do with that information around the timelines.
It's so confronting when we start to remember. When we start to, for me on this journey, every week is different for me, and I'm happy. I never, you'll never see me say, oh, I know everything. I don't know everything. I learn every week. And with this remembering that I'm witnessing for myself and for others, what we are meant to do with this information is just hold it. Like the song that you played for me, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to, it's the song that you played for me before we started recording is, I'm always have been on a mission. It was just who I've been. I'm always on a mission for something. But the mission is now just to hold that information like the great encyclopedia of wisdom that you are. And you watch and you wait until you need to use that information in some way. Because like that fear of that remembering, the fear of the knowing, it was so interesting, Emilio, that you touched on that and you've picked up on something that I wanted to talk about. I had a client and the song lyrics that were coming up for me, I'd written them down before I'd seen her, was songs about the devil. And I was thinking, this is weird. Like, why is this what's this got to do with anything? And it was in the morning, I was having acupuncture with my doctor, and my doctor was making me laugh. He said, "Oh, there's people in my life that think I'm the devil because I do acupuncture, but he's got deep knowing, and he's very in his feminine." And so this client, for example, that came online, I said to her, "Look, have you got this fear about your knowing?" I said, "Because you've got this fear around that you're going to be punished for your sins." And I could see in a timeline that she was being punished for her sins, but by her husband. He had abandoned her and her 4 children and left her. "You know so much. You look after the children then if you think I'm the one that's going out and providing." But what we're not realizing is that if we feed the feminine and we nourish her and we nurture her, she will grow everything for us. So that information, that remembering, all we are needing to do right now is nurture and nourish and love her. So for example, if you are in a relationship and you've got a woman in your life, nurture and nourish and love her. Because when we look at the destruction in the world, it's the masculine wounds that are creating that kind of destruction. Oh, but Mother Earth, her type of destruction is a whole other level of destruction. That type of destructive energy is in all women. It's in all women. So this is why when we see wounded feminine around, it's nothing worse than a woman's scorn, you know? And so with the knowing now, rather than making her feel fearful of it, whether the her is in the masculine or in the physical woman itself, nurture that information, write it down, hold it and keep it there. It's like anything. It's like you go to university, and this is why I said to you 9 years ago, you said I just finished high school. You were starting on a new journey. I was 34 9 years ago, and I was going really just started still crying about this journey because I didn't know what was going on with me because 33, it all started to happen. It's like we're holding this information so that we can see how we have left things in other timelines. Spirit said to me, "Is it how we begin things or is it how we end things?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Is it how we begin things or is it how we end things?" Because if we look at how, say, for example, Mother Earth began as one just giant continent that then eventually broke up, and then we've all, now we're in the Holocene period where we're humans here figuring out how to thrive in some way. It's like we use information when we need it. So we're not needing to throw out information and like prove to the world, "Look at what I know." Your knowing will come out in the way that you need it to at the time that is divinely orchestrated for you. And this is why Spirit's been talking to me and reiterating more about time, because it's something we all like, "Oh gosh, what's the time?" Like, we need to keep doing this. They're just reminding us that the time will be guided by them because the goddess is the greater picture of everything, not by us. And so I feel like globally with this goddess awakening and the wounds of the masculine, if the world was ruled by the divine feminine right now, it'd be a very different place. Like, for example, if you chose to go into politics, or someone that's got the masculine and the feminine intuition, the world would be a very different place because it wouldn't suppress people. It would keep people in a way that they could be balanced. It wouldn't be brainwashing people to believe one thing when actually the innate knowing is within them. So as people are remembering who they are, you're just being present, because there's no point living in the past, which we all do sometimes, past things come up, and there's no point looking too far into the future. It's just nurturing and loving her and whatever that means to you, so that when that space of freedom comes in, it will click in where you feel free to fully express yourself as you are without the fear of judgment. And we're doing this in our own homes now. We can be so blocked up in our own homes where we're trying to let the other know, "This is who I am, please see me." You don't need to do that anymore. The frequency is changing where people are going to see it, and if they don't, it's going to break down, and that's your knowing of where, you always know. I knew a previous relationship I was in from 18 to 25. I knew about 4 years before that relationship ended, this is not my future. But I still was present and went along with it, because I didn't go, "I'm going to end it now." I just used that knowledge the day that I knew I needed to use that knowledge. And that's what I've always done. Even now, I use the knowledge when I need to use it. I don't use it as like ammunition.
Right.
It's not ammunition. And I think a lot of mediums and psychics can. I was discussing this with another very amazing medium. And she said to me, it's quite arrogant when mediums or psychics say, I know, when they're talking about somebody else. We can know for ourselves, that clear cognizance, but I know, Emilio, this, apart from if it's not supportive, like I know you're going to be amazing and thrive. That's a different supportive thing. But nobody really knows anything about the other. We know about ourselves. We can guide. That's all it is. It's guidance. And just like when people come to me, I'm purely observing from a very high perspective. This is what we need to look at, and this is what we need to progress you on your journey. The rest is on you. Hold that information. It's like when someone gives you some prediction for the future, and I don't know how I feel about predictions. Like for me, it's like, what am I able to do now? What's the point of knowing if there's a big giant wave coming, or Mother Earth's going to do what Mother Earth is going to do? But I just hold there at the moment. I'm nourishing that information and holding it. So that client that I had where the devil information was coming up, she had this real fear. Like she said, I do have 4 children. I've actually just left my husband. She said, when I signed up on your wait list, all this hadn't happened yet. But here you are seeing me, telling me that this is what's going on up here, which is what is going on right here. I said, because you need to know this information now. You didn't need to know it a year ago. You didn't need to know it 2 years ago, because you would have been scared at the thought of your family unit breaking down. But you are not scared anymore, because your power is coming back as the light white witch that you are, that is working in the light with knowing. And so I just think, at this time, this space is coming in where we're not so distracted anymore, and we're meant to just not distract ourselves anymore. Like, how I think you posted something recently where we've been distracted and brainwashed about all kinds of things in our world. And it's that now that people are waking up more and remembering, it's like we're not going to fill that space with anything. We're just nurturing and watering the knowledge, just like we're small children. When a child comes and asks you 10 million questions, and can we repeat things about dinosaurs over and over again, but whatever. It's like we're just repeating a new old story within us that's going to take us further. Don't need to do anything right now. This guidance may change next time we talk, but right now, as people are listening to this, or even if they listen to this years from now, this is just what you need to hear for now, what we need to know for now.
Beautiful. Yeah, we started off this conversation seeing that you were seeing 2 children around me, and I did want to talk about, the new wave of souls that you're seeing coming in. One word that you use to describe them you said that they're very discerning regarding the families that they're going into. And I wanted to explore that a little further around why these new souls are coming in exactly at this juncture of time, this timeline that we're in for humanity.
There are more and more people like you that are being born, Emilio, that have that very balanced masculine and feminine energy. And, you're late 20s now, and I'm early 40s now. And when I am seeing clients who are consciously wanting to conceive a child because they want that, these souls of these children come in and show me timelines where the parent has been stuck looking after a child. And I use stuck because it's like stuck in a timeline. I'm not saying that they weren't honored to look after that child, but stuck in a timeline where they've been abandoned or left alone with the responsibility. As we know, the saying, it takes a whole village to raise children. People don't do it like that anymore, but that is actually starting to happen more. And so this is why these children are coming in really watching. And I'll give you an example of this, because this was a really fascinating case for me. So this client came quite recently, and I just, for whatever reason, I've been getting lyrics to songs I don't even know sometimes. And I wrote down the lyrics, "You only feel lust when your body is numb." And so I said to her, don't tell me anything about that, but I'm going to go onto a timeline and have a look to see what's going on. And I see her in a timeline with a son. And there's another one, a second one that wants to come in. And I said, do you have a son now? She said, yes, I do. I said, okay. I said, but are you having physical issues conceiving this child? And she said, yes, I am. I really want one, and I really want a physical relationship with my husband, but I just physically can't do it. Now, this was a curious case for me, Emilio, because her words were so convicted. I really want one, and I really want a physical relationship to bring a sister in for my son, but I just can't do it. And I was thinking, why is this person saying it to me this way? So I went up and I spoke to that version of her. I said, what's the issue? I don't actually really want another child. And I was like, oh, okay. So this girl that's hanging out here in this other realm wanting to come in is going, you're not telling the truth, mummy. You're not telling the truth that you actually want, because there's an issue with you and my potential father. And the issue is the lack of the physical relationship. And so this is why the lyrics were, you can only feel lust when the body is numb. And without getting too graphic, because, YouTube, it is an issue that I'm seeing with a lot of people, where they're verbally saying they want a child. They're verbally saying that they want to bring in and expand the family, but physically, on some level, whether it's the physical way that you make a baby or the physical conception, is not happening. And it's because the child and the higher beings, they don't actually want one. And so when I dug a little bit deeper with this client, I said to her, there is a big gap between you and your husband. I said, physically, emotionally. No, we love each other so much. And I said, I'm going to push back on that. I'm going to really push back on that. I said, I'm really sorry, but I just have to now get to the point. I said, because if you want to bring in this child, we need to figure out what the issue is. Then the truth, what is real, comes out. Oh, because I physically can't create a child, we've decided to be flatmates. We've decided to be roommates. And so my 11-year-old son sleeps in the room with me, and my husband sleeps somewhere else. And I said, here we go. I said, now we see why Spirit's going, there's a physical gap, there's an emotional gap, but I really want a child, but I just can't. But the can't is in the behavior, because the behavior is showing that you're not actually doing what you need to be doing to create that union and that connection, to have that child come in going, I feel safe that my parents are actually saying what they mean. They're actually in a loving relationship. And this is an example for this particular case. Everybody's different. And she was kind of looking at me all shocked. I said, well, how does the physical happen? I said, I don't think I need to school you on how the physical part happens to make a baby. But I said, if you are separated in energy and separated in physicality, and your son is there. And then I went into another timeline. I could see the son trying to save her from SA happening in the other timeline. And that was what was happening. This person hadn't been intimate or physical with her partner in over 20 years. And they'd been together a long time. And so it was like that first child was created through IVF. And so it was interesting that Spirit was showing me where the disconnection is. So that soul of that daughter, the soul of that daughter that wants to come in, she physically had a son, didn't want to come in yet because the parents have not united, have not come together in some way. So this is why they're discerning, because conscious conception is requiring both parties, even if you are needing to get a donor in some way, or like that example I gave you of the man potentially not biologically being the father of that child, just love them anyway. The child still, that soul of that child is choosing you on some level. Doesn't mean about biology. It just means do I feel safe in my remembering of how to provide unconditional love for this child? And do I feel safe in that, knowing that I can bring this child in? But don't lie to yourself. I see it in my behavior too sometimes, Emilio. I want something, but then my behavior is like the opposite of it. And I'm going, okay, what are you actually afraid of? Like, you're saying you want this, but then you're doing something else. like that, and that was a real concrete example. Separate rooms, separate everything. There's no, and physically can't do it. Can't, the body is numb. And so when these kids are coming, they're going, yeah, I want to come to you, but you've got to get your things sorted out first so I feel safe, because the children are coming in very knowing, they're already remembering. So they want the parents to be able to hold the capacity for that unconditional love coming. Because all my parent friends will always say, you know, we love our children unconditionally. And to be able to hold that new wave of souls coming in that know, like you know, but they know quicker because they're coming in already remembering and retaining that memory so that they can change the world.
Why is that?
The parents need to be ready. Why
Yeah.
is what?
That they're retaining the memory.
It's just where they're coming from now, is what I've been told. They're not coming and forgetting like we come and forget and then have to remember. They're coming and retaining the memory. They're retaining the memory so that they can show the ones that are still here. Because like the question that Spirit asked me, is it the beginning or is it the end that's important? They were questioning me about this. And so if we think about the end of our physical life, how we leave our life is potentially how we're going to start it again. Which is what I see. These timelines are alive. They're awake. They're not, the physical body's not there anymore. But when I shoot up into another realm, that person's going, yeah, no, she needs to remember that this is what's happened because this is how it ended. This is how it ended. This is how it ended. Do you want it to end the same again? No, likely, most of the time. So that's why they're retaining the information, so that for the end of a cycle for some people, the beginning is going to be better for the remembering to come. And so we're not having such extreme, I didn't actually know that. They're just telling me that now. So that the extreme doesn't happen as what we've been experiencing in the world with all the craziness with wars and all the things going on. But it's fascinating when these souls come in. And some people are a bit shocked, especially ones that are, you know, I had a lady recently that was on like her 18th round of IVF and still hadn't conceived a child. And I said, you can do it all you like. I said, you can do all the IVF under the sun. But I said, the issue is that child knows that you're doing this out of desperation and to find unconditional love in that child. You have to be able to give it, not think that you're just going to receive it from this child. Because like someone close to me said to me, I love my kids way more than they love me. She's like, it's just the way it is. Kids are kids, but I would do anything for those children, but they don't understand that type of love. And so this person that was having like on the 19th round of IVF, I could see, I was like, you don't have children. She said, no. I said, but you feel so protected and unreceptive. Your goddess is not awake to receive that soul of that child. So you're doing the physical. In her case, she was doing the physical, going and getting the procedure done, paying all the money. But she hasn't been receptive enough to awaken the goddess to hold unconditional love in her body, hold that remembering of that child is in you. That child is remembering in you and asking you to remember. And that's when people get freaked out and have miscarriages and all those things that contribute, because you realize on some level your child knows more than what you do and is going to be confronting things to you. Because often parents will say, when I see them or just friends, my child mirrors back to me everything within me that I need to sort out. But they're doing that right from within now. So it's really, because everyone's different, you know. I'm just giving you case studies of what I've been seeing at the moment, because I know a lot, because it's consistent. Spirit's bringing consistent messaging because this is what people are needing to work on. And I can see it in my own life where want something, I'm usually very good at getting what I want because I know how to align myself to get it. But certain things, I can see my behavior or my body, oh, my left knee hurts. Okay, Gaia, what are you fearful of moving forward with? You know, it's that. Or in some cases, more extreme, like the very depressed man. I really want love from a woman, but she's hurt me so much before. Even my own daughter doesn't communicate with me. It's the body is really showing us. And so this is why, as we open up the capacity and just hold that information till we're being told to use it, then we can use it.
Wow. I've also heard you speak about that this is the year of connection and collaboration. And we were speaking about this before of like, right now it seems, and we talked about soul clusters before, that we come in with a cluster of souls. And it feels like right now those souls are finding each other in a more accelerated way for something bigger, bigger than us, bigger than just that connection. And I wanted to explore if that's been something that's come up for you and your clients. And, you know, you're seeing that people are finding each other faster, especially with the online world now. And then also meeting in the physical too.
And I think that meeting in the physical is really something that Spirit wants us to reinvigorate and re-enrich our life, like enrich our life, because, you know, even I've had this feeling like I'd love to bring in some, like I've got friends that I've had since I was 4 or 5, really old friends that have known me, you know, we just talk about random things, not spiritual things. And I love that. And I've had this real calling of like, I'd love to invite in friends at this stage of my life, at the woman that I am now. And I can see that in clients also, like wanting connections, whether it's with an intimate partner or with aligned friendships of people that that add value to who they are, that complement who they are, rather than being exactly the same. But where I want to go with this is another case, because it was quite interesting for us, well, for me, us meaning me and the spirit guides, but us also, you, me, and those listening, is I had this lady come, and she took me to a timeline where this was very fascinating. What she was doing up in the other realms was completely opposite to what she's doing down here. So up here, she was the wife of, I can't remember, of wife of someone. And as she matured, the husband said to her, I don't want you anymore. I'm going to get a second wife. I'm going to get a second wife. This is what she's showing me up here. So in this timeline, she was discarded. Her goddess in her crone stage of life was not being nourished, and he couldn't see her worth in that, and he wanted another wife. So I could see that. I was thinking, okay, this is interesting, because I said when I tune into her, she feels single, but I'll figure this out. Go on to door number 2. She is grooming women in a very ancient timeline. I think it was like, I don't know, 700 BC or one of the things. Grooming women to be attractive and luring men in. Luring men in, not from the goddess energy, but from the physical form, So I'm relaying all of this to this person. And so she's lost her worth in door number 1. Door number 2, she's trying to hold her worth, and by grooming other women to pass on to whoever she was working for in this timeline. Now here in timeline with us, 2026 timeline, never been in a relationship, never had anyone around her physically in terms of any type of intimate relationship, but is still questioning, and I believe that she was in her 50s, still questioning, do I actually want that? Now, this was an interesting thing for me, because it made me go, up here, she wanted it. Down here, she's too scared to have it, because what if she loses her appeal? What if she gets to that stage of the goddess where she's the crone and then she's not wanted anymore, and then somebody else gets shifted as the newer model or whatever it was? But she had this programming inside of her. But the problem is that she was blocking all connections. She was blocking connections of new friends coming in, as well as romantic relationships. And when I looked at the line, where I went down the DNA line further, I could see sisters. And all 3 of her sisters are not in any type of relationship, not married. So all the female children in this family did not have a partner, or were divorced, or were not letting it in. And so she had this longing for bringing connection and collaboration, but she was blocking it because of the fear. It was a really interesting session for me, because it was like opposites. Sometimes it's like what they're doing up here is what they're doing down here. here. And then turned out she was also a Gemini too. So she had that dual thing going on. And I said, you have to decide. I said, if you want to nurture the goddess, that means that you are going to start attracting more people. And then you can't be afraid of what that means to share. Because you know the deepest friendships are when we share something vulnerable with them. And otherwise they just stay superficial if you're just talking about nothing all day long, but you share emotional things that are causing me sadness, grief, happiness, and you want that person to hold that. But a lot of people that are lonely at the moment, you might want to look at what are you doing, what energy are you holding where you are afraid that you're not going to be good enough, or you're afraid that you're not worthy of having friends that would want to spend their time with you in physical connection. Because online, we can get on WhatsApp. You messaged me when I got up this morning at 4 o'clock going, Gaia, see you in a couple of hours.
Gaia.
Gaia is with the 3 A's. I was like, just woken up, let me brush my teeth first, Emilio. So I was like, hearted it. But it's like that physical connection takes more effort. Like, we have not met yet, you and I, physically.
This is our 4th podcast together.
Is it our 4th one? Right, yeah, it's our 4th. I knew it was 3 or 4th. And it's like, because it takes effort. So this is why when I can and I do get invited to things, if I am able to go, I will go, because that connection is saying to that other person, I really respect you and I really value you, and you're important to me. So I'm letting you in. And it changes the energy. Like there's the lady that I go and meditate with sometimes. I actually have been driving out to her, which takes me like 45 minutes. And after clients, I'm like all spaced out. She's like, we can do this on Zoom. I was like, no. I said, I'm going to drive out here. I said, because I value the connection. And then we have like a cup of tea and we pull cards for each other and have, it's a fun thing. We're connecting in that way and we're learning from each other. So I just think
need more of that.
Yeah, we need more of that. And I think so people are having this longing of physical connection, but then like in that case where the couple are sleeping separately and causing physical blockages, obstacles, Lord Ganesha came in the other day in my meditation saying these obstacles need to be moved out the way, the physical parts of disconnection. And even people will be listening going, but I'm not doing it on purpose. Of course you're not doing it on purpose. None of us are doing anything on purpose unless we are. But these kind of things are just these subtle nuances within us that we need to investigate a little bit further of why am I not attracting what I want or who I want or the friendships that I want. And I know with me, and I'm just being honest because that's just who I am, sometimes I don't let people in because I'm like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Like, and something I've had to move through because I'm quite private and reclusive by nature, and when I let someone in, if I feel they just want my work aspects of me, I don't want that because I want to share as a woman, because that's what I am too, with daily things that I want to talk about. So I just think this connection in person, people are moving a lot, people are leaving and moving to other places physically within themselves, meeting new people, old relationships dissolving. I just think it's like we're throwing the dice, and where the dice lands, it's like a gamble. But that's when you've got to trust your clear cognizance, your knowing, okay, I'm going to let the universe guide me, because the universe knows how to maintain balance for me. If I just take the step based on my knowing, not sure how the outcome's going to be, but just knowing that the information will come out when I need to use it, and I'm okay with that because it keeps me in the present. It's being, there's so many things that are uncertain in life, and I struggle with uncertainty myself sometimes. But then all these magical things happen in all of our lives, and then you go, oh yeah, actually this is not about me. I've got no control. I've got no control over this. It's whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We are just guided. And I think more people are just going to be guided. And one thing I was thinking of also just to mention is, it's something I've actually been very good at, and I quite like this attribute that I have. I've done it since I was young. I will agree to something, and I haven't even thought about it. It just is like, yep, I'll do that. It's like a natural, yes, I'll do that. And then after that, I'm like, oh God, what did I sign up for? Or what? It's like the first time I went on television, I was 21, and an email came around going, we're looking for TV presenters. My brain, it's like my fingers moved before I could even think. And then when I signed up for it, and I was like, oh my, and then went for the audition, and then I became a regular TV presenter for years.
Wow.
And but it's just saying yes to it and then figuring out that the knowledge will come later. Because often I've said to clients, I've sometimes reflect on how much I've grown on this journey from, I'm 10 years into this work now, and it'll keep changing and I'll keep evolving as I should. And I look back to the clients that Spirit was bringing me in the beginning, and I remember saying to someone, I can't remember, but it's what I want to say to all of you. I said, you already know what to do. I said, you don't need to go and study more or whatever. But the person blocked it so much, they didn't trust that they knew what to do, and so never pursued that path because they thought they needed more qualifications. Sometimes we just need to be around the right people, and that awakens us. Because you know how we leave these conversations, and I always feel really uplifted after talking to you. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got so much energy to go and do all the other things. But then sometimes I talk to other people. I'm not saying in podcasts, I'm just in general talking to people. We can tell whether we feel depleted or we don't have the energy. We're now learning to connect with people that we do feel uplifted and that do shift something in us to help us remember, even though they are not doing that consciously. There are certain people in my life, all I need to do is like have a cup of tea with them. I'm like, oh my God, I have so much clarity. We didn't even talk about what I don't have clarity about. It's just being with someone who's already in that awakened goddess in some way.
Mm. Back to the awakened goddess.
Yeah.
And I wanted to open one last portal in this conversation that is around, you get a lot of messages from Spirit. Has there been a message from Spirit that you've held within that you're finally ready to share publicly at this time?
I don't know whether there's one where I've been keeping it or withholding it or anything like that for any other reason around timing. But I just know that when we receive gifts from Spirit, like spiritual gifts or even just the gift of life or the gift of love, it's like it comes on the tail end of a breakdown. So don't fear when you have a breakdown, whether it's like a meltdown of emotions and grief, or a breakdown in a relationship, or a breakdown in whatever it is, the structures that have built your life, or you're choosing to walk away from something, because there's always a gift. And people will be thinking, oh, but I just lost someone in death, and that wasn't a gift. But there actually is a gift in that. That's why Spirit asked us to question, and I'm going to question this a bit more with me. Is it the beginning or the end that is the most meaningful? Because in the end, there is always the gift, and that gift of freedom and liberation for the soul leaving the body and having its whole complete self there. But as we're going along, these gifts are being given through the breakdown. So I just feel like I've been having clients where I've been really pushing back on whether they want to be in these relationships that they're in or in the work that they're in. And they're getting confronted because when I question them, like, oh my goodness, it's a scary place to be. It is going to result in a breakdown at some point because you are now entertaining what you already knew. It's just someone else has gone and said it to you. The breakdown needs to happen in order for the breakthrough, for the gift to be given, whatever that gift is. This is why people are coming into spiritual gifts and they're using it for what they want to use it for, like whether they're writers or and this is the thing, and I think this is why Spirit's been giving me lyrics from old songs, country songs that I'm not even familiar with, or just random songs, is because in those lyrics, the artist that has written them is evoking emotion. They evoke, how we listen to a music and make us feel sad or want to dance or cry or angry. It's like that gift in that portal is opening up more emotion for connection, but it comes through the breakthrough or the breakdown, which can be completely unexpected. And I actually love unexpected things because we are not here to know everything. We are not here to know everything. No one knows everything, not even the best psychic in the world. We are just here guiding each other back to our true essence of remembering. And all we are being asked to do now is not be numb anymore, and not to consume things in all ways that numb us, but to be brave and courageous in our feelings. Like when I used to hide my crying meltdowns and things, but now I'm just like, whatever. It's just who I am. Or if I'm angry or whatever, which I do get angry sometimes. It's part of human nature. I'd be pretending to be some saint, or I'm not. I'm just a person like everybody else, and I just think there are so many gifts being given, and even spiritually, sometimes like the ankh that Spirit gave us when we were doing our meditation, that's a doorway that's opening up for us. Who knows how that's going to integrate for us as we leave each other after this conversation. They're giving us gifts. The goddess was awakening up here before I could awaken further down here. It's like they're not even just physical things that we need, not just signs. They're trust what you are seeing in your meditation. And if it frightens you, just ask your guides to go, do I need to know this now? If I don't, just leave it. It's like how I don't want to know. Some people want to know when they're going to die and whatever. I don't want to know. I'm just carrying on with life and let nature take its course, which is then when the exciting surprises come in that are unexpected. And that's when you can have your childlike curiosity and be like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
I have so much love for you, Gaia. Thank you for just the raw messages that always come through. And you don't know this, but everything that came through today has really hit me on a deep personal core level. I've had chills throughout this whole conversation. Maybe things that we'll talk about and touch on off air, but I did want to bring us into that final segment of the podcast, the final trio, which we've always done, personalized questions at the very end. Before that, where would you like to send people to connect with you, your work? You have your own app, anything else that you'd like to send people to?
The best way is on the app. So if you go to your app stores and just search Soul 33, the numbers, over the last 6 years, we have done so much development to the app, and it's at a stage where it's so cool. It's like you've got your own divination tools. I do the Monday mantras every week. The communities from all over the world. There's the group chat. There's all kinds of things to help guide you. And, I created that, Emilio, because when I was going through all the spiritual awakening and figuring things out, I thought people would think I was insane. There was no one to talk about. But that space creates a safe place for people to just go and talk about what they're seeing or the synchronicities. So that's the best place to go, is Soul 33 on your app stores.
Beautiful. We'll link everything down in the show notes as always. And for the final trio, this first one I had for you is, what practices or way of being will be most effective in this new phase of evolution for humanity?
It's going to be a very simple answer because I like simple things. When I sit to eat, I make it a bit of a ritual. Like I'm not, it actually frustrates me when I see people standing and shoveling food in their mouth.
I've been there before.
Yeah. But I actually always will sit and I'll eat. And what I want to say is that, we have our senses, all our senses, and then we've got our supernatural senses too. But it's honing in on the senses that actually create a deeper connection for presence. So, for example, I've been sipping on my ginger tea while I've been talking to you. And it's like taking in the warmth of the tea. I can smell the sweetness of the scent of the ginger. I can feel that I brewed this ginger, Lucy, my assistant, just grated the ginger for me, and I put it, it's all come from a process of love and being present for the nourishment of the goddess within. So I think, in response to your question, that whatever you are doing, whether you're drawing, writing, eating, listening to music, really tune into all of your senses, including your otherworldly ones, because that's what being psychic is. It's really feeling everything. And so that's what I would say in response to that. It's allowing yourself to feel. And that starts with the most simplest things of like, I'm holding my kyanite crystal in my hand. And I know the reason why I'm holding this kyanite crystal in my hand and why I bought it and who told me to buy it and where, and it's familiar, but it's also just remembering and not taking it for granted.
Yeah. Powerful. This next question is, what determines which version of the future timeline someone experiences?
Which version determines the future timeline of what someone experiences? Our ability to let go. If we, in both, in the way that we want a certain timeline, or in a way that it's a more sabbat, like how we ended things, either way, it's letting go of control, letting go of trying to make it happen and just knowing you did everything that you can. And letting go is hard, Emilio. It's really, really difficult to let go, because especially when you've experienced trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, and then you're faced with that situation again and you're really hoping for it to have a different outcome. It's in that moment that you have to go, I just have to let go. If I want this to be different, I can't let my trauma infect it, and I can't let my fear of it infect it. Just going to have to let go. So I just feel like we can bring in timelines that are repeating some of the horrible wounds that we've got. But for us to have our highest timeline, even that is just letting go now. And knowing that that's been that way before, and knowing that you have the opportunity to change by opening yourself up to unconditional love and allowing yourself to receive it. Even like animals give unconditional love. They're not going to have conditions. Even if you don't feed them, dogs will lie there even when you die and not want to move because they are so loyal to you. It's that. It's the, I'm just going to let go and let in.
This last one is a little more personal. Have you ever received guidance from Spirit that you struggle to accept in yourself?
All the time, Emilio. There's been times in my life that this is why I said to you, and it's so interesting that, you've brought this question up when I said the fear of knowing. There's been times where I have known that something wasn't good for me or someone wasn't good for me. And there have been times where I've persevered with things where other people are saying, you need to get away from that. Don't do that anymore. But I knew from my guidance that I needed to stick it out. And for me, that clear cognizance, because it was for myself, not for somebody else, sticking it out and persevering was worth it. But it was hard for years for certain things. And I just think that there have been many instances, and especially like, a lot of people are afraid to spend money. A lot of people are afraid to invest in things. And there have been times where I've put in large amounts of money, large for me. I'm not a super rich person. I'm rich in many other ways, abundant in the way that I live. But I put in large amounts of money with the knowing I wasn't going to get the outcome. But I knew that the lesson and the experience was going to push me further along. So, for example, the lady that I gave you with the IVF, and IVF is expensive. She's now learning the lesson about what it is. But when I've had knowings about certain things that I've invested in, knowing that I wasn't going to get the outcome, I know my spirit guides were going, just invest, put your money there. You're not gonna get the monetary gain back. But the lesson and the experience in that is going to give you so much more. And I followed that before. And I'm actually very proud of myself for doing that and knowing that there was going to be something more, but it wasn't going to be the monetary gain in it. And so, yeah, there has been times where, because it's scary, like people are afraid to spend money, and because, you know, we live in this world where we need it to be able to live, and petrol prices are going higher and blah, 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 all the things. But we can't live in that fear. We still sometimes just have to do when we know and trust that the next part of the information. And so for me, that's how it's been in my own life. There's sometimes scary things that come through. I'm like, I need to spend $20,000 on that, but I know I'm not going to get anything back, but I know that's going to make a breakthrough in another area of my life. So I did it anyway. And it's been worth it. So yeah, that's my response to that question, Emilio.
Mm-hmm. It's in the letting go that we can grow the most.
It really isn't. It's just the hardest thing. I have to remind myself sometimes, just let go, Gaia. You can't control that. Just, you've seen all the miracles, you know so many things, but it's because when we've got one trauma, when we've had accumulated trauma, it's really hard. And this is why we have to have the practices of tuning into the senses, and our meditation practice, and our exercise routines, and everything to self-love and nurture and nourish the goddess, because she'll give us so much more. So love the women in your life and love the divine feminine within you unconditionally in all her forms.
Definitely. Will do. Gaia, thank you again for the wisdom that pours through you at the right exact moment. And I know that if I'm getting chills throughout this whole episode, that's a reflection of what other people are experiencing with your energy and your presence and your authenticity. So I just wanted to honor you for who you are and what you bring to this world. It's very valued, and sending you so much love. I know we will, if this is round 4, I can't wait to be like, oh, remember when we were at round 4? We're at round 50 now, and continue these conversations for the years to come. And so grateful for this alliance, collaboration, and friendship. So sending you so much love.
Thank you, Emilio, for giving me a place to just talk about what I learned, because I think it's important as a teacher to speak from a place of, like, I'm learning this too, because nobody knows everything. And I'm just grateful that you can hold the space for me to teach in the way that I teach. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I love it. I love hearing your stories, your clients and everything. It's always something different. And that's why we can talk tomorrow and it's going to be a completely different conversation, because we're in the present moment too.
Yeah, that's right. I literally wake up in the morning going, I wonder what kind of client spirit's going to bring me today. It's like a real adventure for me, because all of you listening, you've got such amazing stories, and nobody is boring. No, you might think, oh, I'm so boring about yourself, but you are not. There's something awakening and fascinating within you that's a story that needs to be told to you.
Agreed. Until next time, guys. Thank you so much.